Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. Today, I've got a story that's equal parts heart-pounding and heartbreaking. Ryan Carter's seemingly perfect life unravels when he discovers his wife Emily's secret relationship with a manipulative businessman, David Jensen. What begins as suspicion spirals into betrayal, as Emily's involvement with David entangles her in his illegal schemes. Ryan, torn between anger and his duty to protect his family, uncovers a web of lies, deception, and criminal activity. As David's influence looms over their lives, Ryan must navigate dangerous confrontations, moral dilemmas, and mounting tension, all while grappling with the devastating betrayal at the heart of his marriage. The story teeters on the edge of chaos and justice, keeping emotions raw. So buckle up, grab your snacks, and let's dive in. It all begins in the summer of 2017, in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside of Denver, Colorado. Picture it: manicured lawns, white picket fences, and the kind of neighbors who wave at you even if they don't know your name. But beneath the surface of this picturesque setting, trouble was brewing. Our protagonist is a man named Ryan Carter. He's 35, a former firefighter turned contractor, and the kind of guy who always puts family first. Ryan is built like a brick wall, with shoulders that look like they've carried the weight of the world, and in some ways, they have. But behind those tired eyes and that rugged smile, there's a guy who's been through some tough times. At the heart of Ryan's world is his wife, Emily. She's 33, an elementary school teacher who radiates warmth and kindness. Emily is the type of person who remembers everyone's birthday and makes homemade cookies for the whole neighborhood. Together, Ryan and Emily have built what looks like the perfect life: a beautiful home, 2 adorable kids, Lila, 8, and Max, 5, and a marriage that everyone envies. But, as we all know, perfection is often an illusion. It's late July, and the Carter family is gathered in their backyard for a weekend barbecue. The kids are running through the sprinklers, their laughter echoing against the fence. Ryan mans the grill, flipping burgers like a pro, while Emily chats with their neighbors, her voice full of that effortless charm everyone loves. At first glance, everything seems fine, but if you pay attention, like really pay attention, you'll notice the little cracks. Ryan's smile doesn't quite reach his eyes, and Emily keeps checking her phone, her fingers tapping out quick, furtive messages when she thinks no one's looking. "Hey, Em," Ryan calls out, holding up a plate of burgers. "Dinner's ready." Emily startles, almost dropping her phone. "Oh, right, coming," she replies, shoving the device into her pocket like it's some sort of guilty secret. Now, Ryan isn't the type to jump to conclusions, but something about Emily's behavior gnaws at him. It's not the first time he's noticed her acting off. Over the past few weeks, she's been distracted, distant even, and Ryan can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. That night, after the kids are tucked into bed, Ryan decides to bring it up. The two of them are sitting on the couch, a half-empty bottle of wine between them. "You've been on your phone a lot lately," Ryan says, keeping his tone light but curious. Emily glances at him, her expression unreadable. "Have I guess I've just been busy with work stuff." Ryan nods, but the explanation feels thin. Emily doesn't usually bring work home, and even when she does, it doesn't look like secretive texts sent at odd hours. "Is everything okay?" he presses gently. Emily smiles, but it's the kind of smile that feels practiced. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" Ryan wants to believe her. He really does. But that nagging feeling in the pit of his stomach won't go away. Over the next few days, Ryan starts paying closer attention. He notices how Emily's mood seems to fluctuate. One moment, she's her usual cheerful self, and the next, she's withdrawn and anxious. He also notices how she started staying late at work more often than usual. One evening, when Emily is out running errands, Ryan checks her laptop. It's not something he's proud of, but desperation has a way of making you cross lines you never thought you would. To his surprise, the laptop is spotless. No suspicious emails, no incriminating search history, nothing. But then Ryan remembers something: Emily has a second phone. Now, this might sound dramatic, but hear me out. Emily's second phone wasn't exactly a secret. She'd gotten it a year ago, claiming it was for work purposes. At the time, Ryan didn't think much of it, but now, with all the strange behavior, that second phone feels like a smoking gun. One evening, while Emily is in the shower, Ryan decides to take a peek. He finds the phone buried at the bottom of her purse, and his heart pounds as he unlocks it. What he finds is nothing. The phone is practically empty. No texts, no calls, no photos. Just a few generic apps and a calendar that hasn't been updated in months. Ryan feels a mix of relief and frustration. Maybe he's overthinking things. Maybe Emily really is just stressed about work. But deep down, he knows better. A few weeks later, Ryan gets a call from his best friend. Kyle. Kyle is the kind of friend who's always got your back, no matter what, and he's known Ryan and Emily for years. "Hey man," Kyle says, his voice hesitant. "I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but I saw Emily the other day." Ryan frowns. "Okay, so?" "She was at this little cafe downtown with some guy. They looked close." Ryan's stomach drops. "What do you mean, close?" Kyle hesitates. "I don't know, man. They were laughing, leaning in close. Just looked a little intimate, you know?" Ryan thanks Kyle for letting him know, but his mind is racing. Who is this guy? And why hasn't Emily mentioned anything about meeting someone for coffee? That night, Ryan decides to confront Emily. He's not angry, at least not yet. He just wants answers. "So, Kyle said he saw you downtown the other day," Ryan begins casually. Emily looks up from her book, her expression cautious. "Oh, when was that?" "Couple days ago, he said you were at a cafe with someone." Emily's face flushes, and she quickly looks away. "Oh, it was just a work thing. I was meeting a colleague to go over lesson plans." Ryan nods slowly, but something about her tone doesn't sit right. "What's his name?" Emily hesitates for just a fraction of a second before replying. "Jake. He's new at the school." Ryan doesn't push any further, for now, but that nagging feeling in his gut is back, stronger than ever. Over the next few days, Ryan keeps his distance. He doesn't want to believe that Emily is hiding something, but he also can't ignore the growing mountain of evidence. One evening, while Emily is out working late, Ryan decides to follow her. He knows it's a risky move, but at this point, he needs to know the truth. He tails her car downtown, keeping a safe distance. She pulls into the parking lot of a fancy restaurant, and Ryan's heart sinks as he watches her meet a man outside. They hug. Not the kind of hug you give a coworker or a friend. This is the kind of hug that lingers, that says more than words ever could. Ryan watches as they walk inside together, his chest tight with a mix of anger and heartbreak. He knows, without a doubt, that his worst fears have just been confirmed. Welcome back, everyone. Let's pick up where we left off. Things are about to get a whole lot messier, so buckle up. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos, just like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Ryan sits in his truck outside the restaurant, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turn white. Through the rain-speckled windshield, he watches Emily and her mystery man laughing over dinner. The scene feels surreal, like something out of a bad movie. Ryan can't tear his eyes away, even as his heart breaks. Who is this guy? How long has this been going on? Questions swirl in his mind, each one more painful than the last. He wants to storm in there, demand answers, make a scene. But instead, he forces himself to stay put. Ryan knows he needs more than just a confrontation. He needs the truth. The next day, Ryan decides to take matters into his own hands. He reaches out to Kyle, who's as loyal as ever, and together they come up with a plan. "Kyle, I need you to help me figure out who this guy is," Ryan says, pacing the length of his garage. "You sure about this, man? Once you go down this road, there's no going back," Kyle warns. Ryan nods, his jaw set with determination. "I have to know." Kyle agrees to dig into the man's background while Ryan focuses on keeping up appearances at home. Meanwhile, Emily seems oblivious to Ryan's growing suspicions. She continues her usual routine, teaching during the day, running errands in the evening, and scrolling through her phone late at night. But Ryan starts to notice the little things. The way she avoids eye contact when he asks about her day. The way her phone always seems to be on silent, face down on the counter. One evening, as they're sitting at the dinner table, Ryan decides to test the waters. "How was work today?" he asks, his tone casual. Emily doesn't miss a beat. "Busy as usual. We've got a big project coming up for the kids." Ryan nods, but the way she's twirling her fork around her plate without eating gives her away. She's hiding something, and Ryan can feel it in his gut. A few days later, Kyle calls Ryan with an update. "All right, I've got a name for you," Kyle says. "His name's David Jensen. He's a corporate consultant. Recently divorced, lives about 20 minutes from here." Ryan feels a chill run down his spine. "And what else?" Kyle hesitates. "Look, man, I don't know how to say this, but it looks like Emily and this guy have been meeting up for months. I found some photos on his social media. Nothing explicit, but definitely not just coworkers grabbing coffee." Ryan's world feels like it's caving in. He thanks Kyle for his help, but the conversation leaves him reeling. That evening, Ryan decides he can't hold back any longer. He waits until the kids are asleep, then approaches Emily in the living room. "We need to talk," he says, his voice calm but firm. Emily looks up from her laptop, her expression wary. "Okay, what's going on?" Ryan takes a deep breath. "Who's David Jensen?" Emily's eyes widen, and for a moment she looks genuinely shocked, but then her expression hardens. "I don't know what you're talking about," she says, her tone defensive. "Don't lie to me, Emily," Ryan says, his voice rising. "I've seen the pictures. I know you've been meeting him." Emily's face flushes with anger. "You've been spying on me. That's insane, Ryan." Ryan shakes his head, his heart pounding. "Don't turn this around on me. I deserve to know the truth." Emily hesitates, then crosses her arms over her chest. "Fine. Yes, I've been seeing David, but it's not what you think." "Oh, really? Then what is it?" Ryan demands, his voice shaking with a mix of anger and hurt. Emily looks away, her voice softening. "We've just been talking, that's all things between us. They haven't been the same, Ryan. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understands me." Ryan feels like he's been punched in the gut. "And you couldn't talk to me? Your husband?" Emily doesn't answer, and the silence between them feels heavier than words ever could. The days that follow are tense and filled with unspoken words. Ryan decides to give Emily some space, but he can't ignore the ache in his chest. He throws himself into work, hoping the physical labor will drown out the thoughts swirling in his mind. Meanwhile, Kyle suggests taking a different approach. "Look, man," Kyle says one evening over beers, "you've got two options here. You can try to fix things, or you can walk away, but either way, you need to know the full story." Ryan nods, knowing Kyle is right. He decides to confront David directly. Ryan tracks David down at his office, showing up unannounced. The receptionist looks startled as Ryan walks in, his presence commanding. "Can I help you?" she asks nervously. "I'm here to see David Jensen," Ryan says. "It's personal." Moments later, David emerges from his office, his expression confused. "Can I help you?" Ryan steps closer, his eyes locked on David's. "Yeah, you can tell me what's been going on with my wife." David's face pales, and he stammers, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb," Ryan says, his voice low and menacing. "I've seen the photos, I know about the dinners, the texts, so why don't you save us both some time and tell me the truth?" David sighs, running a hand through his hair. "Look, man, I didn't mean for this to happen. Emily said things were over between you two." Ryan's jaw tightens. "Over? We're married." David looks genuinely uncomfortable, but Ryan doesn't let up. "You stay away from her," Ryan warns. "This is your only chance to walk away without things getting ugly." David nods, clearly intimidated, but Ryan doesn't feel any sense of victory as he leaves. If anything, the encounter leaves him feeling even more lost. A quick reminder, folks, if you're still here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more gripping stories like this. Your support means the world to me, and it helps us keep bringing you these wild tales. When Ryan gets home that night, Emily is waiting for him. "I know you went to see David. she says, her voice trembling. Ryan nods, his expression unreadable. Yeah, I did. I wanted to hear his side of the story. Emily looks away, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Ryan. I swear I don't know who I am anymore. Ryan feels a flicker of sympathy, but it's quickly overshadowed by his anger and pain. You should have come to me, Emily. We could have worked through this together. Emily wipes her eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe it's too late. The words hang in the air, heavy with finality. If you've stuck around this far, you already know things are heating up. And trust me, you won't believe where this story is heading. If you're enjoying the ride, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means everything, and it keeps us going strong. Now let's dive back in. After their conversation, Ryan and Emily barely speak. The house feels colder, the silence between them heavy with unresolved pain. Lila and Max, too young to understand the details, sense the tension and grow quieter themselves. Ryan spends more time at work, throwing himself into projects as a distraction, but the distance only deepens the rift between him and Emily. Each night, as he lies awake staring at the ceiling, the same thought keeps replaying in his mind. Is this the end of their marriage? A week later, Kyle calls with another update. But this time, the news is more shocking than Ryan could have imagined. Ryan, I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, Kyle begins, his tone hesitant. But you need to know David isn't just some random guy. He's been involved in some shady business deals, and Emily might be caught up in it. Ryan's heart sinks. What are you talking about? Kyle explains that David has a history of manipulating people, financially, emotionally, and otherwise. He's been linked to embezzlement schemes and other illegal activities, using charm and deception to rope others into his mess. I think he's using Emily, man, Kyle says. And if she's not careful, she could end up in serious trouble. Ryan feels a mix of emotions, anger, fear, and a strange protective instinct. Whatever Emily's done, she's still the mother of his kids. He can't let her get dragged down by someone like David. Determined to get to the bottom of things, Ryan decides to confront Emily again. This time, he's armed with Kyle's intel and a renewed sense of purpose. That evening, after the kids are in bed, Ryan corners Emily in the kitchen. Emily, we need to talk, and this time I need you to be honest with me, he says, his voice steady but firm. Emily looks up, startled by his tone. What now, Ryan? I know about David's past. I know what kind of man he is, Ryan says. And I need to know if you've gotten involved in any of it. Emily's face pales, and for a moment, she looks like she might deny everything. But then, she slumps against the counter, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't know, Ryan, she whispers. I swear, I didn't know. Didn't know what? Ryan presses. Emily takes a shaky breath. At first it was just conversations. He seemed so supportive, so understanding. But then he started asking for favors. Little things, like helping him with paperwork. I didn't think much of it. But then, it got worse. Ryan's stomach churns. Worse how? Emily hesitates, her voice barely audible. He asked me to sign some documents. I didn't realize what they were until it was too late. Ryan, I think I've made a huge mistake. Ryan feels the weight of her words like a punch to the gut. This isn't just about infidelity anymore. This is about protecting his family from something much bigger and more dangerous. We need to fix this, Ryan says, his voice firm. Whatever it takes. Emily nods, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. For the first time in weeks, it feels like they're on the same team again. But Ryan knows they can't do this alone. He calls Kyle, explaining everything, and together they hatch a plan to expose David's schemes and protect Emily from any legal fallout. The next evening, Ryan and Kyle arrange a meeting with David. They choose a neutral location, a parking garage downtown, the kind of place where shadows linger and tension hangs heavy in the air. David arrives, his confident smirk instantly setting Ryan's blood boiling. Well, this is unexpected, David says, leaning casually against his car. What can I do for you, gentlemen? Ryan steps forward, his fists clenched. You can start by leaving my wife alone. David raises an eyebrow, his smirk widening. Your wife, she came to me, buddy. If you can't keep her happy, that's not my problem. Kyle steps between them before Ryan can take a swing. This isn't about that, Kyle says, his tone sharp. We know about your business deals, and we know you've been using Emily to cover your tracks. David's smirk falters, but only for a moment. I don't know what you're talking about. Save it, Ryan snaps. We've got the evidence. And if you don't back off, we'll take it to the cops and the media. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crosses David's face. You're bluffing. Kyle pulls out a folder and tosses it onto the hood of David's car. Inside are copies of the documents Emily signed, along with other incriminating records Kyle managed to dig up. David glances at the papers, his jaw tightening. All right, fine. You've made your point, but if you think this is over, you're sorely mistaken. Ryan steps closer, his voice low and threatening. If you come near my family again, I'll make sure you regret it. David doesn't reply. Instead, he climbs into his car and speeds off into the night, leaving Ryan and Kyle standing in the dimly lit garage. When Ryan gets home, Emily is waiting for him in the living room. She looks up as he walks in, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. Well? She asks. It's done, Ryan says, sitting down beside her. But this doesn't mean everything's fixed, Emily. We've still got a long way to go. Emily nods, tears streaming down her face. I know, and I'm so sorry, Ryan. For everything, I don't know how I let it get this far. Ryan takes her hand, his voice softening. We'll figure it out, but you've got to be honest with me from now on. No more secrets. I promise, Emily says, her voice trembling. For the first time in what feels like forever, they sit together in silence, the weight of the past week slowly lifting. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Just when it seems like things might be settling down, Ryan gets a call from Kyle the next morning. You're not going to believe this, Kyle says, his voice urgent. David's not done, he's already trying to cover his tracks, and he's coming after you next. Ryan's grip tightens on the phone. What do you mean? I mean he's desperate, Kyle replies. And desperate people do stupid, dangerous things. A quick reminder, everyone. If you're as hooked on this story as I am, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got even more twists and turns coming up, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. If you thought things were intense before, get ready, because this story is about to hit a whole new level. Make sure you're comfy, because what's coming next will have you gripping the edge of your seat. And hey, while you're here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories just like this. All right, let's dive in. The morning after Kyle's call, Ryan wakes up with a new sense of urgency. He knows that David is desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. As he sits in the kitchen nursing his coffee, he notices Emily watching him, her eyes filled with concern. What is it? She asks softly. David, Ryan replies, his voice heavy. Kyle says he's not done. He's planning something, and I don't think it's good. Emily's face pales, and she grips her coffee mug tightly. What do we do? Ryan sets his jaw. We stay ahead of him. I'm not letting him hurt this family, no matter what. But even as he says the words, Ryan knows that staying ahead of someone as cunning as David is easier said than done. That afternoon, Ryan gets an unexpected call from an unknown number. When he answers, a cold, familiar voice greets him. Ryan, David says smoothly, I was hoping we could have a little chat. Ryan's grip tightens on the phone. What do you want, David? To make things right, David replies, though his tone drips with mockery. You see, I don't appreciate being backed into a corner. It makes me unpredictable. Ryan's pulse quickens, but he forces himself to stay calm. If you're calling to threaten me, you're wasting your time. Threaten. David chuckles. No, I'm simply offering you a chance to step away. Take your family, start over somewhere else. Forget all about this little misunderstanding. Ryan's anger flares. Not a chance. David's voice turns icy. Then you leave me no choice. Watch your back, Ryan, and watch your families. The call ends, leaving Ryan seething with rage and a knot of fear tightening in his chest. Over the next few days, the tension in the Carter household becomes unbearable. Ryan takes extra precautions, installing security cameras around the house and making sure the kids are never left alone. Emily, guilt-ridden and terrified, tries to keep the family routine as normal as possible, but even Lila and Max can sense that something isn't right. "Dad, is someone trying to hurt us?" Lila asks one evening, her big innocent eyes full of worry. Ryan crouches down to her level, his voice calm but firm. "No one's going to hurt us, sweetheart, I promise." But as he tucks her into bed that night, Ryan can't shake the feeling that he's made a promise he might not be able to keep. Just when things seem hopeless, Kyle comes through with another crucial piece of information. "Ryan, I found something," Kyle says, his voice buzzing with urgency. "David's got a warehouse downtown. It's where he's been running his schemes. If we can get in there and find proof of what he's doing, we can take him down for good." Ryan's heart pounds. "Are you sure about this?" "As sure as I can be," Kyle replies. "But we've got to move fast. If David gets wind of this, he'll cover his tracks." Ryan knows the risks, but he also knows this might be their best chance to put an end to David's threats. Late that night, Ryan and Kyle drive to the warehouse, their nerves on edge. The area is deserted, the streets eerily quiet as they park a few blocks away and make their way toward the building. Armed with nothing but flashlights and determination, they manage to find a side entrance and slip inside. The air is thick with dust, the faint hum of machinery echoing in the distance. "Over here," Kyle whispers, pointing to a stack of filing cabinets. They work quickly, rifling through papers and taking photos of anything that looks incriminating. Bank statements, fake invoices, contracts, everything points to David's illegal activities. Just as they're finishing up, a noise startles them. Footsteps. Ryan's heart races as he and Kyle duck behind a stack of crates. Moments later, a group of men enters the room, their voices low but tense. "David said to clear this place out tonight," one of them says. Ryan exchanges a panicked glance with Kyle. They need to get out. Now. Carefully, Ryan and Kyle make their way toward the exit, staying low and silent. But as they near the door, one of the men turns and spots them. "Hey, who's there?" Panic surges through Ryan as the men start shouting and giving chase. He and Kyle sprint out of the warehouse, their footsteps echoing in the empty streets. "Split up," Kyle shouts, veering down an alley. Ryan hesitates but follows his friend's lead, darting in the opposite direction. He runs until his lungs burn, finally ducking into a dark corner and holding his breath as the sound of pursuit fades. When the coast is clear, Ryan makes his way back to the car, where Kyle is already waiting. "That was too close," Kyle says, breathing hard. "But we got what we needed," Ryan replies, holding up his phone with the photos they'd taken. The next morning, Ryan contacts a lawyer and hands over the evidence, but he knows it will take time to build a case against David, and in the meantime, David isn't going to back down. Sure enough, later that day, Ryan receives another call, this time from Emily. "Ryan, something's wrong," she says, her voice trembling. "There's a car parked outside the house, and it's been there all morning." Ryan's blood runs cold. "Stay inside, lock the doors, I'm on my way." He races home, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When he arrives, the car is gone, but the sense of unease lingers. "We need to leave," Ryan tells Emily, his voice firm, "at least until this is over." Emily nods, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Ryan. This is all my fault." Ryan pulls her into a hug, his voice softening. "We'll get through this together." As Ryan and his family pack their bags, he knows the fight is far from over. David isn't just a man. They're dealing with a system of corruption and deceit that runs deeper than they ever imagined. But Ryan is ready for his family, for his future. He'll face whatever comes next. If you're still watching, thank you. I hope you're as invested in this story as I am. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next part, because trust me, you won't want to miss how this all ends. We're nearing the peak of this roller coaster of a story, and let me tell you, the stakes have never been higher. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for the thrilling conclusion coming soon. Now, let's get back to it. Ryan and Emily pack up their things and move to a nearby motel, a temporary refuge while they figure out their next steps. The kids think it's an impromptu vacation, and Ryan does his best to keep it that way. But beneath the surface, the tension is suffocating. Ryan spends his days meeting with lawyers and investigators, trying to build an airtight case against David. Emily, guilt-stricken and overwhelmed, focuses on keeping the kids calm. One evening, as they sit together in the dimly lit motel room, Emily finally speaks up. "Ryan," she says, her voice trembling, "what if we can't stop him?" Ryan looks at her, his expression resolute. "We will. I don't know how yet, but we will." Emily nods, tears glistening in her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she reaches for his hand. It's a small gesture, but it speaks volumes. Meanwhile, David isn't wasting any time. He knows the Carters are working against him, and he's determined to shut them down. One night, as Ryan is returning to the motel after a meeting with his lawyer, he notices a car following him. At first, he tries to convince himself it's just a coincidence, but when the car continues to tail him through multiple turns, his suspicions are confirmed. Ryan's heart pounds as he tries to lose the car, weaving through the quiet streets of the city. Finally, he pulls into a crowded parking lot and watches as the car drives past, its headlights disappearing into the distance. When he gets back to the motel, Ryan locks the door and double-checks the windows. He doesn't tell Emily what happened. There's no sense in scaring her further, but deep down, he knows the fight is far from over. The next day, Ryan and Kyle meet with their lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Linda, who's as sharp as she is determined. "We have enough to go to the authorities," Linda says, spreading out the evidence on the table. "But it's risky. David has connections, and if we don't play this right, he could slip through the cracks." "What do you suggest?" Ryan asks, his voice steady, despite the storm raging inside him. "We need something concrete," Linda replies. "Something that ties him directly to the crimes. If we can get him on tape admitting to anything, it would seal the deal." Ryan exchanges a glance with Kyle. It's a dangerous plan, but it might be their only shot. That evening, Ryan calls David, his voice carefully neutral. "David, we need to talk," he says. There's a pause on the other end of the line before David replies. "I didn't think you'd have the nerve to call me." "I just want to make a deal," Ryan says. "No lawyers, no cops, just you and me." David chuckles, a cold, mirthless sound. "All right, Ryan, let's talk." They agree to meet the next night at a secluded bar on the outskirts of town. Ryan's plan is simple: get David to incriminate himself while Kyle records everything from a hidden camera. The bar is dark and nearly empty when Ryan arrives. He spots David sitting in a corner booth, his confident smirk as infuriating as ever. "Ryan," David says, gesturing for him to sit. "Glad you could make it." Ryan slides into the booth, his expression unreadable. "Let's get this over with." David leans back, his eyes gleaming with smug satisfaction. "You've been a real pain, you know that. But I'll give you one last chance to back off." Ryan doesn't take the bait. Instead, he carefully steers the conversation toward David's illegal activities. "What's your endgame here?" Ryan asks. "All the fake invoices, the embezzlement. What's it all for?" David laughs, a low, dangerous sound. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Let me tell you something. Ryan, people like me don't play by the rules, and we certainly don't get caught by guys like you." Unbeknownst to David, Kyle is sitting in a car outside, watching the scene unfold through a live feed from the hidden camera. Every word David says is being recorded. As the conversation continues, Ryan presses harder, his anger barely contained. "You're not as untouchable as you think," Ryan says, his voice low and threatening. David's smirk falters for just a moment before he recovers. "And what are you going to do about it? You've got nothing." Ryan leans in, his voice dripping with defiance. "We'll see about that." David's expression darkens, and for the first time, Ryan sees a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. The tension between the two men reaches its peak when David, perhaps out of desperation or arrogance, reveals more than he intended. "You don't get it, do you?" David says, his voice rising. "I've been running this game for years. Fake businesses, fake contracts. It's all one big shell game, and no one's ever been smart enough to catch me." Ryan's heart races as he hears the words he's been waiting for. He keeps his expression neutral, but inside, he knows they've just won. The moment Ryan leaves the bar, he calls Kyle. "Did you get it?" Ryan asks, his voice tight with anticipation. "Every word," Kyle replies. "We've got him." The next day, they hand over the recording to Linda, who immediately contacts the authorities within hours. A warrant is issued for David's arrest. The police raid David's home and office, seizing files and computers that confirm everything Ryan and Kyle uncovered. The media gets wind of the story, and within days, David's face is plastered across every news channel. Emily watches the coverage from the motel room, tears streaming down her face. "It's over," Ryan says, sitting beside her. "We did it." Emily nods, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, Ryan, for not giving up on me." If you're still with us, thank you for watching. The final chapter of this story is just around the corner, and trust me, it's worth the wait. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the thrilling conclusion. We've finally reached the boiling point in this wild story. If you've been hooked so far, you're in for a treat because the stakes are about to hit an all-time high. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this. Now, let's get right into it. The news of David's arrest spreads like wildfire. Local media reports on his fraudulent activities, exposing the depth of his schemes and painting him as a manipulative con artist who preyed on unsuspecting victims. Ryan watches the news in the motel room, his face unreadable. Emily sits beside him, clutching his hand as if it's the only thing keeping her grounded. "It's over," she whispers, though her tone suggests she's trying to convince herself as much as him. Ryan nods but doesn't reply. Deep down, he knows it's not truly over until every loose end is tied up. As the authorities dig deeper into David's operations, they discover something shocking: hidden accounts and assets that suggest David had planned for this eventuality. He wasn't just reckless, he was calculating. Linda calls Ryan the next morning with the grim news. "David might have enough resources to post bail," she warns. "If that happens, there's no telling what he'll do next." Ryan's heart sinks. "You're saying he could walk?" "It's possible," Linda admits, "but we're doing everything we can to prevent it." Ryan hangs up, his mind racing. He knows that if David gets out, his family won't be safe. That evening, as Ryan is heading back to the motel, he notices a car parked outside their room. His stomach churns as he approaches, his hand instinctively reaching for his phone. When he opens the door, he's greeted by a man he doesn't recognize, tall, well-dressed, and carrying an air of authority. "Mr. Carter," the man says, extending a hand. "I'm Detective Marcus Reed. I'm leading the investigation into David Jensen." Ryan hesitates but shakes the man's hand. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you and your wife," Detective Reed replies, stepping inside. Emily looks up from the bed, her face pale. "What's going on?" Reed sits down, his expression grim. "We have reason to believe that David's associates might try to retaliate. He has connections, and they're not happy about how quickly his operation is unraveling." "What kind of retaliation?" Ryan asks, his voice tight. "Threats, intimidation. Maybe worse," Reed says. "We're assigning patrols to keep an eye on your motel, but I wanted you to hear it from me. Be vigilant." Despite the police presence, Ryan can't shake the feeling that something is about to go wrong, and his instincts prove correct when 2 nights later, Emily's phone buzzes with a text message. She glances at the screen and immediately turns pale. "What is it?" Ryan asks, noticing her reaction. It's from David," Emily stammers. Ryan's blood boils. "What does it say?" Emily hesitates before handing him the phone. The message is brief but chilling. "You think you've won, this isn't over." Ryan's grip tightens on the phone, his anger barely contained. "How did he get your number?" "I don't know," Emily whispers, tears streaming down her face. "I blocked him weeks ago." Ryan paces the room, his mind racing. David might be behind bars, but his reach is still terrifyingly long. Desperate for answers, Ryan decides to confront David one final time. He contacts Linda and manages to arrange a visit to the jail where David is being held. As Ryan sits across from David in the sterile visiting room, the tension is palpable. "Well, well," David says, leaning back in his chair, "if it isn't the man of the hour." Ryan glares at him, his fists clenched. "You're done, David, your scams, your threats. They're over." David chuckles, a sinister sound that sends a chill down Ryan's spine. "You really think it's that simple? Let me tell you something, Ryan. Men like me don't lose. We adapt, we survive." Ryan leans forward, his voice low and steady. "Not this time, I'll make sure of it." David smirks, but doesn't reply. As Ryan walks away, he can't help but feel that David still has one more trick up his sleeve. The next day, Ryan receives a frantic call from Kyle. "Ryan, you need to get out of there," Kyle says, his voice urgent. "What's going on?" Ryan asks. "I was looking into David's associates," Kyle explains. "There's a guy named Victor Morales, one of David's enforcers, word is. He's been asking questions about you." Ryan's stomach drops. "What kind of questions?" "Where you're staying, where you work, everything," Kyle replies. "You need to move now." Ryan hangs up and immediately begins packing. He explains the situation to Emily, who looks more terrified than ever. "Where will we go?" she asks, her voice trembling. "Somewhere safe," Ryan says. "I'll figure it out." That evening, as the family prepares to leave the motel, Ryan hears a noise outside. He freezes, motioning for Emily to stay with the kids. Grabbing a flashlight, he steps outside and spots a shadowy figure near the edge of the parking lot. "Who's there?" Ryan calls out, his voice firm. The figure steps into the light, revealing a man with a cold, menacing expression. "Ryan Carter," the man says, his voice dripping with malice. "We need to talk." Ryan squares his shoulders, his adrenaline spiking. "I have nothing to say to you." "Oh, I think you do," the man replies, stepping closer. "You've made some powerful enemies, my friend, and they don't take kindly to betrayal." Ryan glances around, noting the man's hand hovering near his jacket. He knows this isn't just a conversation, it's a warning. As the tension escalates, Ryan hears the sound of sirens in the distance. The man curses under his breath, then disappears into the night. Ryan rushes back inside, his heart pounding. "We need to go now." Within minutes, the family is in the car, speeding away from the motel. Ryan doesn't know where they're heading, but one thing is certain: they can't stop until David's influence is completely destroyed. Thanks for sticking with us, everyone. The conclusion to this heart-pounding story is just around the corner, and trust me, it's going to be worth it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We're diving straight into the heart of the storm now. The tension is at an all-time high, and every decision Ryan makes could be the difference between survival and disaster. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss the final twists in this wild ride. The Carter family drives through the night, their belongings hastily thrown into the back of their car. The air inside is tense, filled with the weight of unspoken fears. Emily keeps glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting David's associates to appear out of the shadows. "Where are we going?" Emily finally asks, her voice trembling. "Somewhere they can't find us," Ryan replies, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turn white. The kids, sensing the gravity of the situation, remain silent in the back seat. Lila clutches her stuffed bear, while Max stares out the window, his expression unusually serious for a 5-year-old. By dawn, they arrive at a remote cabin owned by Kyle's cousin, a man Ryan has met only once, but trusts through Kyle's recommendation. The cabin is isolated, surrounded by dense woods and far from prying eyes. "It's not much," Ryan says as they unload their bags, "but it'll keep us safe for now." Emily nods, her face pale but determined. "Thank you, Ryan, for everything." For the first time in weeks, Ryan feels a glimmer of hope, but he knows they're not out of danger yet. While settling into the cabin, Ryan receives a call from Linda. Her voice is strained, laced with urgency. "Ryan, I just got word that David posted bail," she says. Ryan's stomach drops. "How I thought the evidence was ironclad." "It is," Linda replies, "but his connections run deep. He must have pulled some strings. The good news is, the case against him is still strong, but you need to be careful." Ryan hangs up, his mind racing. If David is out, it's only a matter of time before he makes his move. That evening, as the family sits down for a makeshift dinner, the stress begins to take its toll. "This can't be how we live," Emily says suddenly, her voice cracking. "Hiding in some cabin, waiting for him to come after us. It's not fair to the kids." Ryan sets down his fork, his expression hard. "You think I don't know that I'm doing everything I can to protect us?" Emily shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. "I never should have gotten involved with him. This is all my fault." Ryan softens, reaching for her hand. "We can't change the past, Em. But we can get through this. Together." For a moment, the tension eases, and they share a quiet moment of understanding. Just as they start to feel a semblance of normalcy, a noise outside shatters the fragile peace. Ryan immediately jumps to his feet, motioning for Emily to stay with the kids. Grabbing a flashlight, he steps onto the porch and scans the dark woods. The air is thick with silence, broken only by the distant rustling of leaves. "Who's there?" Ryan calls out, his voice steady but tense. There's no response, but Ryan's instincts tell him they're not alone. Moments later, a figure emerges from the shadows. It's one of David's associates, a burly man with a menacing scowl. "Ryan Carter," the man growls, stepping closer. "David sends his regards." Before Ryan can react, two more men appear, flanking the first. It's clear they're here to send a message. "Stay back," Ryan warns, his voice firm. The men smirk, clearly unfazed. One of them pulls out a crowbar, tapping it against his palm with a sinister grin. "We're just here to talk," he says mockingly. Ryan's heart pounds as he calculates his next move. He knows he's outnumbered, but he refuses to back down. The standoff quickly escalates into a physical altercation. Ryan uses everything he's learned from his time as a firefighter, his strength, his instincts, and his determination to protect his family. The fight is brutal and chaotic. Ryan manages to hold his own, but the odds are stacked against him. Just as one of the men lands a blow that sends him staggering, a loud voice cuts through the chaos. "Freeze, hands up!" Kyle appears, armed with a shotgun and flanked by two police officers. The men immediately drop their weapons, raising their hands in surrender. Ryan collapses to his knees, his chest heaving with exhaustion. "You okay?" Kyle asks, helping him to his feet. Ryan nods, though his body aches from the fight. "I will be thanks for showing up when you did." The men are arrested, and Kyle explains that he had a gut feeling something was wrong. When he couldn't reach Ryan, he contacted the local authorities and rushed to the cabin. "This isn't over," Ryan says as they watch the police cars disappear down the dirt road. "David won't stop until he's behind bars for good." Kyle nods, his expression grim. "Then we make sure he doesn't get another chance." The next morning, Ryan and Kyle meet with Linda to devise a plan. They know David is desperate, and they decide to use that to their advantage. "We'll lure him out," Linda says. "Make him think he has the upper hand. Once he incriminates himself, we'll have everything we need to lock him away for good." Ryan hesitates, knowing the risks, but he also knows it's their best chance to end this nightmare. The plan is set. Ryan will meet David in a public place, wearing a wire provided by the police. The goal is to get David to admit to his crimes, or at the very least, threaten Ryan directly. As Ryan prepares for the meeting, Emily pulls him aside. "Are you sure about this?" she asks, her voice filled with fear. Ryan nods. "It's the only way, Em. We can't keep running." Emily hugs him tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Just come back to us, please." Stay tuned, everyone. The conclusion to this heart-stopping story is coming up next, and you won't believe how it all ends. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the final chapter. We're closing in on the climax of this gripping story. Everything has led to this moment, and the stakes have never been higher. If you're loving this journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing recaps. Now let's jump back into the action. The day of the meeting arrives, and Ryan's nerves are razor sharp. Dressed in casual clothes to avoid suspicion, he drives to a bustling park chosen for its open space and public setting. The hidden wire taped under his shirt feels heavy, a constant reminder of the risk he's about to take. Kyle sits in an unmarked van nearby with Detective Reed and a team of officers monitoring the live feed. "You've got this, Ryan," Kyle says over the earpiece. Ryan takes a deep breath, stepping out of the car. His eyes scan the park until he spots David sitting on a bench near the fountain, his demeanor calm but calculating. As Ryan approaches, David stands, his smirk as infuriating as ever. "Ryan," David says, spreading his arms in mock friendliness. "I was wondering when we'd have this little chat." Ryan forces himself to stay composed. "Let's skip the pleasantries, David. You wanted to talk, I'm here." David chuckles, motioning for Ryan to sit. "You've made quite the mess for me, you know. But I have to admit, I underestimated you. That won't happen again." Ryan sits, careful to position himself so the wire picks up every word. "If you're here to threaten me, save your breath. You're finished, David. The evidence against you is ironclad." David's smile falters for a brief moment before returning, sharper than ever. "Evidence can disappear. Witnesses can change their stories. It's amazing what a little persuasion can accomplish." Ryan presses further, his tone growing bolder. "You're desperate, David. You've already lost, and you know it. Why don't you just admit it?" David's expression darkens, and for the first time, his polished mask begins to slip. "You think you're so clever," David snarls, "but you have no idea who you're dealing with. I've built an empire on people like you, people who think they can stand up to me, and every single one of them has regretted it." Kyle's voice crackles in Ryan's ear. "Keep him talking, we're almost there." Ryan leans in, his voice low and steady. "You've got nothing left, David. No one to hide behind. No one to bail you out. It's over." David slams his hand on the bench, his composure fully unraveling. "It's not over until I say it's over." Before David can say another word, a swarm of officers converges on the scene. Detective Reed steps forward, his badge glinting in the sunlight. "David Jensen, you're under arrest," Reed says, his voice authoritative. David stares at Ryan, his expression a mix of rage and disbelief. "You set me up," he hisses. Ryan stands, his gaze steady. "You did this to yourself, David." As the officers cuff David and lead him away, a wave of relief washes over Ryan. For the first time in months, he feels like his family might finally be safe. Back at the cabin, Ryan and Emily sit on the porch, watching the sunset. The kids are inside, laughing as they play a board game, their joy a stark contrast to the chaos of the past weeks. "It's over," Emily says softly, breaking the silence. Ryan nods, though his expression is thoughtful. "It is, but it's going to take time to rebuild what we lost." Emily reaches for his hand, her grip firm. "We'll do it together." For the first time in a long while, Ryan allows himself to believe her. In the days that follow, news of David's arrest spreads throughout the community. His associates are also taken into custody, and his network of deceit is dismantled piece by piece. Ryan and Emily return home, their neighbors greeting them with open arms. Though the wounds of betrayal and fear still linger, the support of their friends and family provides a foundation for healing. Kyle stops by one evening with a six-pack of beer and a grin. "You did it, man," he says, clinking his bottle against Ryan's. "We did it," Ryan corrects, a rare smile tugging at his lips. As the weeks turn into months, Ryan and Emily focus on rebuilding their relationship. They attend counseling, work through their issues, and slowly rediscover the love that brought them together in the first place. The kids, blissfully unaware of the full extent of the danger they faced, return to their normal routines. Lila joins a soccer team, while Max proudly shows off his latest Lego creations. For Ryan, the journey has been a brutal reminder of the lengths he's willing to go to protect his family. And though the scars of the past will never fully fade, He knows they've emerged stronger on the other side. A quick reminder, everyone. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. The conclusion is just around the corner, and trust me, it's one you won't want to miss. This is it, the conclusion of our story. Everything we've experienced so far has built to this moment, and I promise you, it's going to be worth it. If you've enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss out on more incredible stories like this one. Now, let's wrap this up. David's arrest sent shockwaves through the community. For years, he had operated in the shadows, manipulating and exploiting those around him, but his downfall was swift and absolute. With the evidence Ryan and his team gathered, the prosecution had an airtight case. Within weeks, David was formally charged with multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, and intimidation. His associates, too, faced justice, their network of corruption dismantled for good. For Ryan, it felt like a weight had been lifted. The fear, the constant vigilance, the gnawing anxiety, it was finally over. Back at home, Ryan and Emily began the long and difficult process of rebuilding their lives. Their marriage, once strained to the breaking point, became their focus. They attended weekly counseling sessions, where they unpacked the events that had nearly destroyed them. Emily's guilt over her involvement with David was a heavy burden, but Ryan's unwavering support gave her the strength to face it head-on. "I don't deserve this," Emily admitted one evening after a particularly emotional session. "You made mistakes," Ryan replied, his voice steady. "We both did. But you're still my wife, and I'm not giving up on us." Those words became the foundation of their healing, a reminder that love, though tested, can endure. For Lila and Max, life gradually returned to normal. Lila thrived on her soccer team, her laughter echoing through the house as she recounted each practice and game. Max, ever the creative spirit, built elaborate Lego cities and proudly displayed them on the living room table. One evening, as Ryan tucked Max into bed, the boy looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. "Dad, are the bad guys gone?" Max asked. Ryan smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his son's forehead. "Yeah, buddy. They're gone. You're safe now." Max nodded, satisfied, and drifted off to sleep. For Ryan, that moment was everything, a reminder of why he had fought so hard. Kyle, ever the loyal friend, became an honorary member of the Carter family. He visited often, bringing pizza and beer for Ryan and Emily and candy for the kids. "You're part of this, you know," Ryan said one evening as they sat on the porch, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink. Kyle shrugged, a grin tugging at his lips. "What are friends for? Besides, you'd do the same for me." Ryan nodded, his gratitude unspoken but deeply felt. Months later, David's trial became a public spectacle. Ryan and Emily both testified, their courage shining as they recounted the events that had nearly torn their lives apart. The jury's verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts, David was sentenced to 25 years in prison, his empire of deceit reduced to nothing. As they left the courthouse, Ryan felt a sense of closure he hadn't thought possible. "It's over," Emily said, slipping her hand into his. Ryan squeezed her hand, his gaze steady. "Yeah, it is." The ordeal left a lasting impact on the Carters, but it also brought them closer together. Ryan learned the importance of trust and communication, while Emily gained a newfound appreciation for honesty and accountability. Their love, once fragile, grew stronger with each passing day. They knew there would still be challenges ahead, but they faced them as a team, determined to protect what they had rebuilt. A year later, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Ryan expanded his contracting business, taking on projects that reignited his passion for building and creating. Emily, too, found joy in her work, her students' laughter reminding her of the importance of resilience and hope. The Carters' home, once a place of tension and secrets, became a sanctuary. They hosted barbecues, celebrated birthdays, and filled the house with love and laughter. Lila and Max, now a little older but no less vibrant, flourished in the safe, supportive environment their parents had worked so hard to create. One evening, as the kids played in the backyard, Ryan and Emily sat on the porch, a glass of wine in each of their hands. "Do you ever think about how close we came to losing it all?" Emily asked, her voice soft. Ryan nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Yeah, but we didn't, and that's what matters." Emily smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Thank you, Ryan, for everything." Ryan wrapped an arm around her, his voice gentle but firm. "We did this together, Em. That's what family is." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Ryan felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been harrowing, filled with fear, betrayal, and sacrifice. But in the end, they had emerged stronger, their love and resilience unshaken. And for the first time in a long while, Ryan allowed himself to believe in the future, a future filled with hope, love, and the unwavering strength of family. Thank you for watching, everyone. This story has been an emotional journey, and I hope you've enjoyed every twist and turn. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more stories coming your way, and trust me, you won't want to miss a single one. See you next time.